Congressman Bishop from New York, tough district in New York, talking about the too big to fail institutions and the internet movement that's encouraging people to pull their money out of banks like Bank of America and Citi and put it into community banks because people aren't happy seeing the huge bonuses and the lack of accountability. So they figure they can get a little bit of accountability themselves by putting their money into community banks that didn't have a hand in the financial mess we're in right now. What do you think?
Well, I think I certainly understand people's anger and people's frustration, and I also think, as I've indicated before, that it's telling that the community banks have really weathered this storm reasonably well, and that's because they are heavily regulated and are not as risk-oriented as some of the larger banks are. And I also think that the financial reform legislation that we passed in the House addresses a big piece of this by creating a fund that would be industry funded to allow for the orderly dissolution, so to speak, of banks that are so-called too big to fail, or institutions that are too big to fail. And so we would end taxpayer-funded bailouts with this fund. So I think that's an element that I think has to play into any kind of judgment we make here. Well, I certainly am not going to either endorse or not endorse a notion of people pulling their money out of one institution and putting it into another.
I don't want to get too personal, but is it something you'd consider doing yourself?
Well, my money is is essentially in. I have money in what started out as small community banks that have now been bought up by larger banks. I've always tried. I'm a lifelong resident of my little hometown, and I have tried to continue. I've tried to bank in that little hometown, and so I had local banks that, as I say, have now been brought up by larger banks. So, I'll take a look at it, but I think it's unlikely that I'm going to move things from where they are.
Well, thanks.
Not that I have a lot, by the way.
Thank you very much. Take care.